Hi, everyone. This is Heather Hodges. I'm an organizational psychologist. Welcome to my show. This is the place where we say I'm in to creativity, bold thinking, transformational growth, and meaningful conversations. Creativity isn't just about making art. It's about making sense of our lives. It's about how we heal, how we connect, how we grow. And at the heart of all of it is joy. But here's the thing. So many of us are taught to fear our own creativity. We silence our ideas. We second guess our intuition and we play it safe. But what if the very thing we're afraid of is the key to our freedom? Today, we're exploring how unlocking your own creative potential can shift you from fear into joy, from surviving to truly thriving. Whether you're a leader, an artist, or simply someone craving more meaning, this conversation is for you. I am so excited to welcome today's guest. Beth Inglish is a sought-after artist, speaker, and leader who inspires audiences to unlock joy and creativity. Through heartfelt storytelling and actionable insights, Beth empowers leaders to turn challenges into opportunities, to cultivate resilience and foster thriving cultures. Her mission is simple. Joy transforms lives, and creativity makes it possible. Beth, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
Well, thank you for coming on the show and sharing your insights and wisdom. Can you please tell us a little about yourself and your work?
Gosh, there's so much I could share, but I think for the purposes of this podcast, I can share that I'm an artist and I'm a leader in my community. And because of those two things together, I have come into the speaking world to share all of the things I have learned from leading creatives over the last decade. And I believe that everyone is creative, and I want to empower people to find it within themselves so that they can experience the joy that it can bring them.
I love the connection that you make there. And so you talk about how creativity can transform fear into joy. I've been fangirling you online and looking at your work and going deep into some of your YouTube videos. Can you walk us through what that process looks like for you, that turning fear into joy, and how others can begin that journey for themselves?
Well, when I first became an artist, I think many artists struggle with even saying, I'm an artist. Plain and simple, like claiming that for yourself. And so I think for a long time in the very beginning of my art career, I played it safe, thinking more about the market than about what was in my own heart. And I kept receiving these visions over and over and over and minimizing them because I couldn't even fathom how that would be work that would sell or be successful. And so there became a time when I wasn't happy making the art that I was making. There was no joy in the process of creating. And I knew that I had to change that because no one works hard to build something that they believe in and not have fun doing it. And so I really had to look at how I was creating. And so then I followed the visions that I saw in my head. And I created the art and I expressed myself and I did all the things that I was afraid of, using creativity and using curiosity to explore and experiment. And from there, I was able to access more joy in my life. And I believe that our neurology is wired a certain way. And if we see things through the lens of fear, then that's what we're going to experience. And I had to change that, right? So I just tried to do the things that brought me joy in order to change that perspective and change the lens in which I was looking at the world. And so that meant that I had to change my behaviors. And so painting and expressing joy intentionally was a really amazing way that I could tap into my brain and tap into my body and my visions and be able to express that and share that with other people. So that's how I turned fear to joy.
I mean, literally on the canvas. That's where it came to life. That is so cool. Tell me what you mean. I'm an artist too, so I usually do portraits, and so I work in oils. Tell us about your art, and tell me what you mean, and tell our audience what you mean when you say your visions. Like, are you seeing the painting fully finished in your mind? What is that experience like?
I do. I see lots of shapes and colors and lines coming together. I will see an image and then I'll try to replicate that, into reality. And so that's what I mean by I was seeing these visions, these ways of producing art, and I wasn't following them. I was like, no, this is how I make art, and this is what I sell, and this is how it's going to be. And I sold a lot of art. Don't get me wrong. It was successful, but in my own heart, it was not it wasn't me reaching my fullest creative vision. And so I think it's important when we do feel those intuitive nudges, that we feel those little desires of yearning for something more, or like curious about something new, that we don't discount those. I mean, that's important information guiding us in a direction we need to follow. And it can be really fun or it can be really scary. It just depends on how you approach it. And I think when you just surrender to the intuition and to the messages and to the visions and to the curiosity and the desire, if you just get curious and move in the direction that it's pulling you, I think you can uncover a lot of amazing things about yourself.
Wow. So it's almost this dichotomy of, are you chasing the market? Are you chasing what you think people want to buy art? Are you chasing that authenticity and following where your curiosity goes and where your vision is taking you? And those are they usually are two different things.
Yeah, and I think if we look at capitalism today, we can see how it only just breeds more greed and corruption, and that's not ever going to bring us the kind of feelings that we want to experience every day in our personal life and professional life. And so if we're not listening to our authentic voice, we're definitely only going down a road that's going to lead us to unhappiness. And that's just the way it is.
Yeah. I've heard you speak on other podcasts and some of your videos about healing through art. When did you realize that creativity or art making could be more than just expression, that it could be a catalyst for transformation and healing?
Oh my gosh, I feel like anyone who experiences beautiful art understands what that energy feels like, to feel like your spirit lift a little bit, kind of transcend you out of your current reality into a new one. And for me, my reality that felt safe was my imagination. And so anytime that I had a chance to express myself, it brought me through a process where it's like the world around me didn't exist, and I could just be in that moment of creation and of beauty. And so I was always a creative kid, a creative teenager, and an adult. Obviously, it's something that I've always loved and craved, but I feel like intentionally using it to heal was something that came much later in life, when I started going through trauma recovery and understanding the power of art and transformation and how the brain works. And really, when it came down to it, I learned that the trauma had created almost like a way of developing my brain that was wired for fear and shame. And I wanted to rewire my brain for joy and love and peace. And so in order to do that, I had to experience activities that were bringing me those things. And so I just intentionally created art in a way that felt freeing, that felt like a release, that felt like a whole body experience, because I knew that that would help me reach my greatest potential. It was either all in or nothing for me. And like when I go all in, I jump all in. And so if I'm like swaying to music and lighting candles and breathing and trying to find some way to just kind of get into that space where it feels like I'm, transcending time, like I'm going to figure out how to get there.
Yeah.
And if it looks funny to other people, I don't care. Like, I think we all need to find a process to get into our best selves and not feel like it needs to look like anything. If we follow our intuition, you just never know where it's going to lead you.
Gosh, no, you're so right that it doesn't matter how we do it. We've just got to do it, because if we want to rewire our brains, we have to build new neural pathways. And if we travel those old neural pathways that are fear-based, those ruts get really deep. But you have to build the new ones to get over to joy. And like you said, sometimes it is lighting a candle, dancing, painting, gardening, doing something to get you out of that does spark joy and brings that to you. Oh my gosh, I love that. How is that? I'm just assuming here. I don't know for sure, but I'm wondering, is that part of the reasons why you founded the Nashville Creative Group? Can you tell us a little bit about that story and how that grew into such a powerful community?
Well, actually, no. The creative group came way before I started creating gestural, expressionistic type art and doing that process. The creative group was born out of let's just say, I love being in a community group. I have experienced positive things from being around people who are like-minded, who share their thoughts and their feelings. And so I had been a part of an artist group for about 2 years, and we met every week. That's a commitment, but we did it. And then people started having babies, and of course life takes over their lives, and the group ended. And so there was a period where it was like we weren't meeting. I wasn't having any group interaction. And I had built up enough friends within the art community that I thought, well, we can just come together and see what happens. And so we met up at we met a bunch of artists together at a local restaurant, and we thought, this is so much fun. Let's do it again. This is how it always happens. We meet up at a restaurant, just a handful of friends, and we think, yeah, this is fun. Let's do it again. And then we do it again and again and again. And then 12 years later, we're still doing it every single month. And it has just taken on a life of its own, truly, because what I learned is that people have a desire to connect. They have a desire to share their stories, and we don't need to create a lot of programming for people. They just want a space to come together and hang out with other people who think like them, who do creative things like them. And so that's what we focused on primarily. We've kept it really simple over all these years. That's the only way it's ever was going to be sustainable for me to continue to produce these events for creative, because I've hosted well over 100 events for the community.
Wow.
And it has just been such a beautiful experience to be with a community of people, because not only did we connect at the events I hosted, but we would all talk about a show that was happening that weekend, and then we would go to a show together, and then we would support other artists within our community and go to their shows. And before you knew it, everywhere you went in the arts community, you could see or connect with someone that you remember meeting at the group.
Wow.
And that sense of community really was a glue that made the art scene in Nashville really vibrant for a bunch of years there. But then when COVID hit, it really hurt the arts community here. And it's been a struggle, honestly, to get people back together and meeting in groups again. And, that's what I'm focused on this year. And that's creating more events for the community and just trying to listen to what it is that they're looking for and what they need. And it helps me understand people better. It helps me lead and serve communities better. And so this whole thing of producing a group, this was not the plan. But now almost 10,000 members in our Facebook group later.
Oh my gosh.
It's like, wow. Look what we've done. And I always thought about, when you're a visionary, you don't think about what's just going to happen next year. You think about 10 years, 20 years down the road. And it was curious for me to wonder, what is it like if you just get a group of people together over and over and over again, all these years later? How does that shape the culture and the community 20 years from now? And I just was curious of what that would look like. And from what I can see, 10, 12 years later, we're just having a ball, just getting together. And it feels like we belong. It feels like we have a family. I mean, people have moved to Nashville to be part of this community, which just blows my mind.
Wow. That is extraordinary.
It's hard to find a community of artists like this. It's in your cities. It's truly hard because it takes organization, it takes time, it takes commitment, and those are things that I wanted to do. I wanted to see how this kind of human sociological experiment could influence the scene in Nashville. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, so far I've had a really great time figuring it out.
Wow. But 12 years in, and the group has just grown exponentially. That's phenomenal. But it speaks to like community, how much we need community as people, but also as artists, like, because it's lonely as an artist. You spend a lot of time by yourself in your studio.
Yeah, you do. And especially entrepreneurs have the same experience a lot of times. Like when you're creating anything, sometimes it's happening in a vacuum and then you bring it out to the world and build a team or share it at a show or what have you. But it is lonely. And sometimes you have a lot of self-doubt or you question your decisions. And it's nice to talk to someone who understands. I mean, isn't it always nice to talk to someone who fully understands your experience so that you don't have to explain it?
Yeah. Totally. Oh my gosh. Well, a lot of our listeners are leaders, and there's loneliness in leadership as well. And one of the things that you and I both talk a lot about is emotional intelligence. And so I'm curious, how do you cultivate that emotional intelligence and emotional awareness in yourself? And as a speaker and a trainer and a workshop facilitator, how do you help other people do the same?
Well, it's not always fun, looking at your emotions and wondering about them and being curious about, well, how could I change this emotion? How could I transform it? Like if I feel a lot of sadness, for many of us, we feel sadness for a good reason, whether we're experiencing grief or some other type of loss or sadness is a normal human emotion, right? But we don't want to feel it all the time. And I think that we can feel sadness and joy and that we can hold space for both of those emotions. And so I think we have to be curious about what we're feeling and then be curious about how we want to feel in the future and then take action towards feeling that way immediately. So if you want to feel joy, find something that brings you so much joy. Like for me, I love riding water slides and I live next to a water park. So what do? I go ride water slides. And do you know how much joy that brings me for the rest of my day if I go there like first thing in the morning, go for an hour and you know what I mean? But that's kind of radical, right? Not everyone's going to just go to a water park for an hour, a couple times a week. But I'm just saying, find something that makes you feel alive and do that thing.
I can imagine it would be so hard to feel anything but joy, maybe fear on a water slide, depending how steep it is. But it's you can't feel sad when you're doing something that brings so much joy.
And, sometimes when we are sad, we do need that kind of emotional triage when it's like, how do I take the best possible care of myself right now? Because it's not about not feeling sad. It's about acknowledging that you are, accepting it, listening to what you need, and then taking the next step. Because if we try to minimize it and go away or make it feel like it's not an important thing for us to acknowledge, then it's only going to get worse. We can't shame our sadness away. We have to feel it and then express it. I mean, just finding people in your community, again, that you can even talk to about some of the things going on in your life is so critical because it could help you just get it out of your system to make new space so that you can feel new things. And I think that's why we get so stuck. It's because we don't understand how a lot of times to get unstuck, it's about getting it out of our systems. And there's a lot of different ways of doing that through self-expression, whether that's journaling, talking to someone, a friend or a therapist, creating, take an improv class. There's a lot of weird, wacky things that you can do out there for self-expression and joy. Go find out what feels good to you and try it and then see what happens. And if it doesn't work, try something else.
No, that resonates so deeply with me, Beth, because there's a theory about healing from emotions and healing from trauma that, the stuckness of that. It's like when you don't finish an emotion, like you either truncate it or you suppress it or you compartmentalize it. And that happened for a lot of people during the pandemic. And we're still learning how to come out of that. For example, but I lost my mom during the pandemic. And so I was one of those, millions of people who lost somebody during the pandemic. And so we didn't get to grieve fully. We didn't get to have a funeral. We had a drive-by funeral. We didn't get to, go through that grieving process and hug all of our family and do all the things. So those emotions got, suppressed. We didn't have an outlet for it. And if I love how you're talking about this, that if we don't express those emotions, then we are gonna get stuck in them, and they may jump up and bite us later on. And it seems like art would be an amazing way to help you get unstuck.
Yeah, it's an invitation to explore your voice and your thoughts and emotions. And before we move on, I just want to say I'm so sorry that you lost your mom.
Thanks.
I lost my dad to COVID, and the last 4 years have been horrible.
Yeah,
grieving that because you're right, you don't get to say goodbye. And he was like my creative pal. Like I talked to him about everything. He taught me everything about playing music and being expressive. And I mean, he was a friend.
Yeah. A creative pal. Wow.
I would be like, "Hey, Dad, what do you think about this?" And he would be like, let's talk about that.
Oh, that's awesome. So he was a musician?
He was a musician, but he and I are very similar. We kind of like engineer brains. We like to figure things out. We come up with all kinds of creative solutions to things like around the house and just cooking. And, he was just a really special person and very talented musician and writer and an artist. So. Wow. We got each other. Yeah, my mom does not get me at all.
Well, but what an extraordinary creative legacy that you are carrying on, from his mentoring and him just being your creative pal, your dad, all those years. There's so much joy and sadness combined in that it's just so textured and deep and beautiful. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah, it's a lot of emotions. And when I lost my dad, I had just started a new relationship, which I'm still in. And so I thought, how do you heal a broken heart and have an open heart, like at the same time?
Wow.
I mean, the depths of our emotions is this intense, beautiful, life-giving experience that we have to embrace the good and the bad. It's not, we don't want to because the bad doesn't feel good, but it is part of the human experience. And I think self-expression makes room for both.
No, I couldn't agree more. Oh my gosh. Well, switching gears ever so slightly and thinking about this intersection of art and creativity and business, because you are a businesswoman, you have a business background, you're also an artist and a creative. So you really bridge the gap between these two worlds. I'm curious, from your experience, what do artists and creatives know that business leaders need to learn about creativity?
Oh, that's a great question. Man, I think when you're an artist, like you have fear, but you don't let it stop you. I mean, you have a voice and you express it. But like with a leader, I think sometimes we're always looking at someone else the outside voices are louder than the inside voices sometimes because we're following a structure or we're following a path that has been clearly defined before us because there's leaders before us or positions more senior than us. And so we look to those who have traveled that path before us and we really hold true to what maybe they have done or have recommended. But I think an artist always carves out their own path. And yeah, we look, side to side to say, okay, is the path I'm going on, is this feel right for me? Like we use other people as inspiration, but not necessarily as the roadmap to get there. I think artists are always more inclined to have a very wavy path. And maybe what business leaders need to know is that you can carve out your own path, being authentic to who you are, your gifts and your voice. But the most important, I think, thing the most important quality in a leader is someone who truly cares about the team they're leading and take the time to invest in those people and understanding how they tick and how they work and how we can get the best out of them. I mean, I love leading teams because I don't take myself too seriously. My team feels more comfortable with me. They trust me because I'm honest with them about how things are going to go, what they're going to experience, and then empower them to take ownership over some of the things that are in part of the work that we do together. And so I just love it when they're like telling me like, I'd love to really work with you again. Or I'm telling my team members like, you were so great to work with. I'd love to have you on my team again. Like those are the moments that I love to share that encouragement. And what I have found is over time that I have to lead less and encourage and appreciate more. That's all I want to spend my time doing truly, because my team has been trained so well that they understand how to execute without me having to tell them. And so all my time can then be spent telling them how great they're doing or giving them ideas about how to do it another way or just appreciating them.
Oh, and that's so well said.
That's my favorite thing about leading is just appreciating and encouraging the people that I'm leading.
Oh my gosh, we need more of that.
Yeah. People don't do that. I don't know why. Like, it's just, like, it's really easy to just say nice things to people, you know, like it just seems like we're all a team, right?
Yeah.
No one is more important than the other. And it's important that we work as a team. And I think a leader, gosh, they make or break the team for sure.
Yeah. I've heard that so much recently, just how far a simple thank you goes right now. Like it just show a little appreciation to the people that are working with you. It goes so far, but it's almost like people think they're going to give up something if they show appreciation or acknowledge, gosh, you were just a superstar today at that project that you did. Here's what I noticed. And here's what the impact it had on the team or the project or whatever. It's so small and so easy, but why aren't we doing that?
Well, you know, I wonder a lot about these things, and I think if we can trust our team, we have to trust ourselves. And if we don't trust ourselves, then how can you really lead that well? And if you're insecure, have self-doubt, or you don't do the work, or you don't do the healing the wounds and all that stuff, like building your emotional intelligence and awareness, then how are you going to be able to lead other people in that same way? Because we all make decisions emotionally. Like we are emotional beings and we have to get in tune with what that means. That doesn't mean we are emotional, like crying and hysteria. Like I think we need to redefine what it means to be emotional.
Yeah, because it's a reality. It's
to feel, to be human. Like this is a normal thing. And the more human we are, the more we can relate to other humans, the better we can lead other humans. But, you know, we don't treat people like they're people anymore. Like, what can I get from that person? Or how can they serve me? Or what can they do for me? Or they're in my way, so get rid of them. You know, like it's so ugly out there. Like I was at the airport, I was traveling to a speaking engagement, and the man in front of me at the line to get your bags checked, he needed another little bin for it to go through security. Well, I got a bin and I gave it to him. Well, he thought that I was pushing my own bin. I was like, this is for you. And he was like, oh. Like he was so surprised. I was like, geez. Just
on the defense already instead of, someone's doing something nice for me. How unusual.
Yeah, I think so. If we just continue to try to do nice things for people, like we'll be delightfully surprised in their reaction. And I think just doing that will that gives you something good, you know, like just the feeling that you've helped or made an impact like that. It feels nice.
Yeah, it does. Oh my gosh. Well, one final question for you before Percy, my research assistant, he's yabbering away over here. Okay, Percy, yeah, just a second. I'm curious, what's one practice or mindset shift that our leaders can try today just to begin unlocking their creative potential, even if they may not be an artist, but what can someone do to like tap in to their creativity?
Well, I think that when we talk about creativity, we have to also talk about stress. And if you're feeling a lot of stress, then it's going to be really hard to be creative. This is all backed by brain science. I don't want to get into it all, but it's all over the internet. You can figure out why stress crushes creativity. But I would say I have this model that I teach in my keynotes, and it's called Take a Beat, BEAT. Breathe is the first step. We need to just breathe, ground ourselves, calm our bodies, get our heart rates lower. This will help our brains produce creative insight. We have to be in a state of calm, not fight, flight, fawn, freeze. We can't be in a stress response state. We need to be in a rest and digest, and our parasympathetic nervous system. We need to be grounded and calm. So breathing exercises, that's the first step. And that could take 3 minutes to really feel a difference in your body, to shift from like maybe a higher state of stress into a lower. That's the first step. But then also, I would say after that, energize. We need to take care of ourselves. We need to have energy in order to be expressively creative. So it's output. So if we need to produce output, we need to also have input as equal. So that means resting, eating the right foods, just taking care of ourselves, basic human stuff. Okay. And then ask for help. Talk about what it is that you need. I think if we don't do the breathing and the energizing, that we're not curious about what it is we need and how we can ask for help. Whether that's from ourselves, we need to do the things that we want to do, or get someone to maybe listen to what it is that we need and then talk about it. We've got to be expressing ourselves in small ways before we can really express ourselves in big ways. And I think by connecting with community and building up relationships with those that, you feel trust with, it's going to help you have more creative insight over time. It builds resilience in the body. This is a really easy process. Breathe, energize, ask for help, talk. It's something that should be used every day, consistently, because this is how we heal over time. This is how we produce a creative life over time. And so we have to understand ourselves and be able to express that in small ways to others.
Oh, that's fantastic. So breathe, energize, ask for help, and then
talk about it.
Talk about it.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you for sharing that with us. That's fantastic. I love that.
You're welcome.
Okay. So Percy, my research penguin, who is over here in the corner, just jumping up and down, ready to come talk to you because he heard you were on the podcast today. So Percy, come on over. Bring me those questions. All right. Thank you, Percy. Okay. Percy's first question comes from a previous guest, Dr. Amy Clymer. And she asks, what is the connection you see between creativity and kindness? And how can we infuse both of those more in our world?
Well, first off, I love Dr. Amy Clymer.
Oh, she's great, isn't she?
And if you haven't bought her new book, go buy it. It's called Deliberate Creative. I have it on my bookshelf right over here. And I'm so thrilled to have her book in this world. She's amazing.
Yes.
But I think it's a great question. How do we have, how can we use creativity to have more kindness? I would say when we think about what does it mean to be kind, can we imagine all the different ways that we can manifest kindness within ourselves and with others? And what does that look like? And how do you like to express kindness to others? Maybe you like to send note cards and you can make your own note cards. Maybe you like to cook someone a loaf of bread or a meal and you can go bring that to them. Maybe you want to plan a whole day for a friend to just make them feel loved and cared for. Like, I love to imagine experiences, like what is going to be the best possible experience or decision or choice that I can make in order to feel kindness towards myself or others. And so when it comes to self-care and being kind to myself, I think, what's going to be the best day ever? And then I kind of design it in my head and then do it, And so I think we can reimagine kindness by just expanding what it means to be kind and to just imagine what that could look like and then to go do the thing.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And so the best day ever, I'm sure, starts with a water slide.
Well, I did this last summer and I made a picnic lunch and then I got in my kayak and then I found the best tree And then it was, a tree that obviously hung over the water. So I could like swing over the water and eat my snacks. Like that's a pretty good day for me.
That sounds idyllic and just wonderful. So fantastic.
I love it.
Okay. Percy's next question is, what is a question you would like to ask a future guest?
I would say, let's see, creativity, leadership, business. I would ask, what's one successful creative practice that you can bring to your team so that they feel seen and heard?
I like that. So a creative practice you can bring to your team so they feel seen and heard. That'll be a good question to unpack. So thank you for that. Well,
You're welcome.
Beth English, thank you so much for this conversation today. How can our listeners find you? And if we have event planners listening, how can they book you to speak or lead a workshop?
You can find me at bethenglish.com. That's my website, and that's BETHINGLISH. And I'm on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, all the places, YouTube. You can find me on Google searches. I'm everywhere. So call me for your speaking engagements. I'd love to be with a group of people and bring joy and creativity to them. So I can't wait to connect more with you. If you're watching or listening, if you want to reach out, send me a DM or a message. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this episode.
Great. Thank you. And I will put a link to your website in the show notes as well. So
Thank you.
Beth, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's been so much fun.
Great. And thank you to our listeners for joining us in this conversation. So if you've enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and share it with someone who could use a dose of inspiration and creativity. And please leave us a review. I read every single one. They are so precious to me. So until next time, keep saying amen to creativity, bold thinking, transformational growth, and meaningful conversations. May you be wildly creative in your life and leadership. I'll see you soon.